real people doing real things, documenting it and using that to motivate and inspire people to participate and show, their own way of expressing kind of how they bring the product to life.
People want to buy from people, and them seeing themselves in the brand assets throughout your marketing and throughout your website. Yeah. It was almost like a no-brainer. Honest Ecommerce is a weekly podcast where we interview direct-to-consumer brand founders and leaders to find out what it takes to start, grow, and scale an online business today. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest Ecommerce. Today, I'm welcoming to the show a fantastic serial entrepreneur and 3-time founder. She built Outdoor Voices into one of the most recognizable activewear brands before launching Joggy, a natural energy brand, and now she is heading up TYB, that's Try Your Best, a fast-growing platform helping over 200 brands like Rare Beauty, Glossier, OUAI, and Urban Outfitters engage with customers directly through its community commerce module. Ty, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
I'm excited. So it's amazing when we have a guest on with your pedigree, where I think most people in our space, unless they're sleeping under a rock, have heard of Outdoor Voices, but for the 2 or 3 out there that haven't, what was kind of the types of products you were selling over there?
Yeah, of course. I'll give you a little walk up. So Outdoor Voices is an activewear brand. I started it at 23. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, super outdoorsy, recreational town, biking, hiking, walking, dog walking, like that was just integrated into our daily life. I then went to New York City for college to Parsons Design School, and no longer had the outdoors or teammates, practice coaches to keep me active. And while in school, I noticed like both mentally and physically, like not moving had negative impact. And so during school in New York City, I became really excited about this idea of creating an activewear brand that wasn't like the Nikes of the world, which traditionally prioritized being fastest, strongest, having the biggest muscles, like an athlete, but rather I called it freed fitness from performance and prioritized inspiring people to move their bodies on a daily basis for fun, with friends, casually, under this umbrella of recreation. And so quite simply started this at 23 and built this doing things movement, doing things really being this motto around inspiring people to move their bodies on a daily basis.
That's amazing, and that's something that I always like to highlight on this show when I see it in kind of a brand's beginning. Is you mentioned there were other companies out there selling roughly the same product, but the differentiation that you brought to it was, well, they're marketing athletes and being the best. Like, we want to bring a different approach to the marketing and the brand aesthetic of these products, which arguably weren't as differentiated. What was differentiated was the branding and the marketing and the messaging.
Yeah, I was very into product. And so on a product level, I had grown up wearing Nike, appreciated it because like the black and neon like made you feel fast. And that was the goal at the time. Then I found myself in New York and very, aesthetically inclined. And really what I wanted to wear was technical product. So the material being sweat wicking and comfortable for movement, but in a uniform that didn't scream, I'm an athlete. And so we really prioritized more of a gray kind of tonal palette than these loud neons. And we merchandised our first product into a kit. So it was simply a crop top or a sports bra that came with a 2-tone legging. And this became like a little unit, your uniform for doing things. And so I really was obsessed with making technically credible material and product that could be used in the active use case and like stand up against competitors, but delivered in a way that just had such kind of a different taste to it and really looked like my other clothing that I was wearing. And so we took this kit, which was very much a fresh kind of concept at the time, and then expanded that into like a uniform that was also a sweatshirt or hoodie and a sweatpant. And we just continued to like distill and simplify the product offering and then activate it with this larger mission of doing things and getting people moving.
That's amazing. Now, take me back in time. What year did kind of the idea get planted in your head that you wanted to launch a brand like this? And did the name come first, or did the idea come first? Kind of what was the beginning of it like?
I think I often tell entrepreneurs to like find within their DNA, like what's unique to them. And so my upbringing in Boulder, then landing in a place that wasn't so nature and kind of movement inclined, like I was really solving for a personal pain point. And so initially I wasn't thinking like this is going to become the next Nike. I'm certainly someone with big ambition, but I was really solving like for myself first. And I think that's what allowed me to kind of go very focused into getting the product right. And then as I started to get the product kind of out to other people, I realized there was such an opportunity in kind of white space to really reposition this energy space in a way that felt approachable and inclusive to people that didn't see themselves as an athlete. And so it started with product connected to a pain point. And then Outdoor Voices, I had a friend from school, this guy called Matt, who was an exceptional graphic designer. And I just remember sitting in Soho, maybe at a beer garden or something, like thinking about names. And Outdoor Voices, I think he mentioned it and it like rolled off the tongue and felt so expansive and so like uniquely recreational. And so the name came after the product and the pain point. But then, we kept building from there. And pretty quickly, I realized there was really an opportunity to have the ambition of kind of creating the next Nike, but within this recreational use case.
Absolutely. And so you have a name, you have some amazing products that you've been working on. What was kind of that go-to-market strategy? When did you go live and how was that reception? Yeah,
it started with a collection of my friends and became one of our kind of like core values or tenets within the brand. It's called It Starts With Us. I actually remember our second office in New York was on Canal Street. And like you had to go through one of the watch shops to like get up to us. But every Friday we'd take the team, probably at that point, 13 of us, and go to the Canal Street basketball courts and like literally participate in the mission to move. And it was funny because there were some people who were really good at basketballs. They'd swish threes and then at basketball, and then others that like had never played a day, but we brought everyone together and quite literally leaned into this. It starts with us. And so it starts with us to go to market. It starts with us. Interestingly, at a time where like direct to consumer was taking off and everything was online, we did the opposite. We prioritized activity IRL, and really kind of activate IRL and then amplify through digital and social became a core strategy that really worked for us, and was very much kind of zigging when others zagged. Again, at this time where everything was becoming about paying for customers through Instagram and Facebook.
Hey, everybody, just a quick reminder. Please like this video and subscribe if you haven't. We're releasing interviews like this every week, so don't miss out. Now back to the interview. You're talking about the team at the beginning there, having 13 employees. I mean, I can only extrapolate from there that you weren't bootstrapped, but you had a little bit of funding to get this going.
Yeah, I think we were lucky in that people really understood this recreation vision and building the number one recreation brand. And so we were able to, like other companies at the time, bring on kind of serious capital. And that really worked for us. And so we started small, then we raised our A, and this movement like really, I guess, caught fire in a quite exciting way. And it became like a very high growth company quickly.
Obviously, you were mentioning that the in real life kind of event activations and then amplifying those through kind of the digital means were some of those kind of growing points that you experienced. Was there anything else along the way that you felt like you were either pioneering or just like aha moments for the growth of the business?
It was early innings Instagram. One thing we did super well was, again, another kind of like core tenet of document, don't produce. And so like fashion brands at the time and even activewear brands would like have models. And like for me, it always felt important to like authentically showcase people who were like real people doing things. And so we would feature, like real runners or like real musicians, like when they're kind of out on the trail. So real people that then expressed itself in a very authentic way. And then that essentially modeled the behavior, and we'd get all sorts of UGC content that we'd use across organic and paid. And they'd all be hashtagged back to this doing things motto. And so, yeah, we were early innings Instagram. I think UGC in a lot of ways we pioneered. Obviously that has taken off and every brand knows the value of that today. But the document don't produce was really about leaning into kind of like real people doing real things, documenting it and using that to motivate and inspire people to participate and show, their own way of expressing kind of how they bring the product to life. And then that crisp, catalyst with doing things, that combination, I think we were quite pioneering in.
People want to buy from people, and them seeing themselves in the brand assets throughout your marketing and throughout your website. Yeah. It was almost like a no brainer. Everything in hindsight is 2020, but it's almost just like, well, yeah, of course this works out, but it's also like a survivorship bias. Like if it didn't, we wouldn't have heard about it. Yeah. That's amazing. Now, as you were scaling up Outdoor Voices, were there any kind of hiccups along the way, that you want to point out for our audience to maybe avoid?
I think in present time, I would say that the direct to consumer thesis was a failed one. There were all these companies that were able to raise all of this monstrous money, but then the mandate became growth at all costs. And I think it's funny because I run a software business now, and it's so evident and obvious to me, how a software business scales and why it requires and can be okay and kind of, requires the amount of investment that these tech companies get. That said, in the physical widget and product space, you have inventory, and that's a beast, particularly when you get it wrong. And so this mandate, kind of just by nature of the capital that we raised to grow at all cost, ultimately got tricky as you got more and more inventory and could certainly miss for a season that can really impact you. I remember internally, or actually at the board level, the question was asked, how high is high? We want to understand if we buy inventory to a higher degree, what really is the opportunity here? And we did that with a pink, or we called it flamingo legging. And now that's the bane of my existence. I'm we were sitting on so many of those leggings. So anyway, a big learning was in the inventory business, growth at all costs, and especially funded in the way that these companies were being funded, is a pretty tricky model to get right. And I think we see that across a lot of the brands today that were part of that 10-year kind of first inning of D2C.
Yeah, they, unfortunately, a lot of great products with a lot of great ideas. Just there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes, and some of those you can see are going through bankruptcy. They don't even exist anymore. They're doing a lot of restructuring, and so I think that once the kind of the oversaturation of spending money on those performance marketing engines to consumers, once matured, the model couldn't sustain it anymore. So people had to be smarter about their margins, and you couldn't actually pay anything to acquire a customer anymore. You had to really think it through.
I mean, the customer acquisition costs have exploded, and then retention and loyalty programs suck. But that whole 10 years was how many customers can I acquire? But as you looked at the data, they became one and done, and they were expensive and not sticky. And that's ultimately not a recipe for a business in the long run. So a lot of learnings, absolutely. And in a lot of ways, that experience dovetailed into kind of why I'm building TYB today.
I have been in business for nearly 20 years, and very few companies I have hired in that time have performed as well as Electric Eye. They have knowledgeable staff, and our project was delivered on time and on budget. Electric Eye has exceeded my expectations, and I look forward to working with them again. That is a direct quote from one of our clients at Electric Eye. Electric Eye is a Shopify Plus partner that has helped over 100 brands migrate, redesign, and optimize their stores since 2016. If you'd like to increase your conversion rate, average order value, and revenue per session, we are the true Shopify experts you've been looking for. Right now, we're offering a free diagnostic to qualified brands that reach out and mention the podcast. Visit electriceye.io today to schedule a call and send us a message. Find out why we have over 50 5-star reviews in the Shopify partner directory. Again, that's electriceye.io, electriceye.io. You're investing in paid traffic, email, influencers, you're doing everything, but your store's still not converting like it should. That's the hidden cost nobody's talking about. If you don't know why people aren't buying, you're constantly losing money. Whenever conversion rate optimization comes up with brands, the first thing I ask them at the agency is what they are using for analytics and behavior tracking. Heatmap.com is my go-to recommendation because it's the only platform I've seen that connects user behavior directly to sales. That kind of visibility is critical for e-commerce brands trying to grow. I tell every brand that we work with to install Heatmap. It shows you what's working and what isn't using real behavior data tied directly to revenue. You get live heat maps, session recordings, funnels, and attribution down to specific product pages. This isn't just another analytics dashboard, it's a revenue optimizer. And right now, Honest E-commerce listeners get the hookup. They get a 14-day free trial. They get access to their ultimate 150-point CRO checklist. And as a bonus, you'll get a free setup by us over at Electric Eye when you ask for us to do so. So stop wasting another dollar guessing. Visit heatmap.com/honest. That's HEATMAP.com/HONEST and start seeing what your customers see, because clarity truly equals revenue. Coming up soon, mark your calendars. Grow New York is September 25th and 26th in Midtown Manhattan, New York City. 2 days, 800 e-commerce leaders. Every session is focused on the biggest shift in our industry right now, AI. If you're a retail brand, your ticket is completely free. But spots are going fast. Go to joingrow.com right now to claim yours before they're gone. That's joingrow.com. joingrow.com. Well, let's kind of talk about, finish up the talk about Outdoor Voices. How involved are you today?
Mm-hmm. I'm not. I left about, 4 or 5 years ago, right before COVID, which is hard because it's your baby. So like that was the hardest thing I ever had done at that point in my life. Had spent 8 years building it. I'd say 90% of that experience was amazing and incredible. We had an awesome team and we had this very powerful movement and strong business. That said, at the board level, about 8 years in, we had very different views on how to continue growing the business. And so I ended up leaving quite dramatically, a very public exit. I think it was in 2019. And then I re-engaged for a brief moment, but had found that I had been kind of put in a box rather than like the founder with the vision and like all in to go execute against this. So I ended up leaving, taking a beat, and then starting new companies.
Did you start more than just the two that I know about?
Well, after kind of 8 years of like being so deep in Outdoor Voices, it took me a minute to like think about what I'd do next. My initial idea was to create kind of, again, within or like underneath this recreation umbrella, kind of specific brands that were an expert in what they did. Let's call it footwear, beauty, energy, etc. But then had a shared backend. The first brand that we worked on is Joggy Energy, which is an organic energy drink. And really, again, this was developed because of a personal pain point. I had been drinking a ton of Red Bull. As I clicked into the ingredients of Red Bull, I'm like, oh shit, this is not a recipe for longevity in the long run. I better go find the most premium plant-based energy. Because I like to feel up. Like I think it's an unfair advantage, almost like nature's Adderall. And when you're like, determined and ambitious, it's helpful to feel that way. And so I had Joggy. We started to work on it. And as I started thinking about how to go to market with a new brand, let's say 3 years ago, I realized that there was an opportunity to create what's now TYB, which is essentially an engagement and rewards platform. So kind of started two companies at once, but that was the walk up, and kind of rationale behind Joggy.
That's amazing. Now, let's talk a bit more about Joggy's launch. Is it a direct consumer play, more of a pure play there, or is it a retail play? Like, what did you change about launching this product? It's obviously a different product category completely as well. Yeah.
Joggy's fortunately been kind of a hobby project for me. It's certainly more than that. We have like capital and an amazing team, but really my main thing is TYB. So Joggy's been fun in that initially it was incubated underneath TYB as an owned brand to really like experience and test the platform with. Mm-hmm. Just in September, we spun it out into its own entity with its own capital and team. and then have been off to the races. But really, as I think about the energy space, like the Celsius's, Red Bulls, Alani News of the world, they all have synthetic caffeine and fake sugar. And like, I think, as we see with Poppy's acquisition and Siete, the better for you space has massive tailwinds. And so I really see it as an opportunity to build the number one organic energy drink company, which isn't just a D2C. It does require more cans in hands and like being out there. And so the approach has been doing beverage well, which requires being indoors like Target. We went into 900 Targets in March. We're in Erewhon. I really love this ability from a brand positioning standpoint to be in blue chip retail like Erewhon, but then also accessible in places like Target, et cetera. So I'd say it's a pretty straightforward approach in terms of distribution. But it's been really well loved because there aren't a lot of options besides, let's say, I think our number one competitor would be yerba mate, which has a ton of sugar, but it is like the only organic energy option that has any sort of like sexy brandness around it.
Yeah. And so let's walk through Try Your Best and exactly how it kind of helps customers engage with the brand through, like, you call it a community commerce model. Yeah,
that's how I think of the category. I'll give a little bit of a look into what we did at Outdoor Voices. So we had this community-led playbook where we had a formalized 10,000 person ambassador program. The group was called Doers. And we essentially engaged them in a number of different activities, from creating content on an ongoing basis that, again, we'd use in organic or paid. They'd host events on a local level, like at universities. They'd come upstream in product development type processes to give us preferences, insights early and upstream so we could make more informed buys. And then we'd reward them for continued purchases. And so it was a very kind of formal thing within OV. That said, we orchestrated this engagement across a variety of channels. So Google Docs, Slack, DMs, etc. And it operationally was very difficult. And then more importantly, it was really hard to measure essentially the return on this community investment. And so I'd sit in the boardroom and be like, we should put more into this community ambassador-led model. As we were able to kind of connect the dots from a data perspective, we found that anyone who came through or interacted first with that community experience was ultimately 4 times more valuable over time than someone we'd acquire through Instagram or Facebook. And so I became obsessed with this idea of proving that community could become a growth channel, and therefore it had to be measurable. And you could understand, if I put X amount of dollars in, what do I receive out? And so I took a lot of what worked at Outdoor Voices and built it into this engagement and rewards platform, which allows brands now today to have an owned channel, meaning they have direct access to these relationships and all of the data that they collect here, to incentivize fans, customers, super fans, et cetera, directly to take valuable action. And it's really working. We have over 200 brands on platform, many of the best top consumer brands from Rare Beauty, Selena Gomez's Rare Beauty, Glossier, Crocs is launching in a few weeks. And so I'd kind of, put a bow on it to say, like, this community commerce or community-led approach put into software has become a model that allows brands now to scale the impact of community and really make it a growth channel.
I need to ask a dumb question for the audience and for myself, right? Now, when you say community, historically, when brands had a community, like, these were like in-person events, and then the internet came around and it was more like you had forums and stuff like that. And then Facebook changed the game with Facebook groups. So, like, is this like an iteration of those kind of digital communities? Like, where do I hang out as like a fan and a community member?
Yeah, TYB, like, from a user perspective, becomes your one portal in or entry point to rewards and relationships from your favorite brands. And so traditional loyalty experiences like live on a brand site, and like I have points that I have to remember to use on my birthday, and like they only live within that ecosystem. So really, we've expanded the definition of loyalty, not just to be about like me earning for purchases, but also me earning for all of these activities that I'm now able to participate in and contributions I'm able to make through the TYB app. But it's not a single brand experience. It's a multi-brand, multiplayer ecosystem that people are engaging with on a daily basis. Did I answer your question?
Yes, but you also gave me more questions.
Yes. Okay. Keep asking me.
Well, you say multi-brand and multiplayer eco. Is it so? Am I earning rewards in the TYB platform that can be used at multiple brands?
Right now, you're essentially coming in through a brand or downloading the 2IB app directly, and then you're joining the community of brands that you love and participating in what we call challenges, so engagement campaigns. As I earn coins, I level up status within each of these brands, and then that status or those coins can be redeemed for essentially discount or access to exclusive community products, etc. And so really it's about proving fandom within a brand, but you have multiple brands within this 2IB experience.
Yeah.
Over time, what we get very excited about is your status within a brand, let's say Glossier, meaning something at a Nike. And so we call it interoperable. But really, I believe that loyalty is becoming and will become kind of the new like user identity and status. And so this gives you as a user the ability to prove your fandom, prove your status, and it will over time unlock kind of experiences across a multi-brand experience, not just within one brand. Yeah.
If you are a very loyal, like high, lifetime value customer at one brand, other brands might know that that's their ICP, and there are from a marketing perspective and from a growth perspective, the sky's the limit there when you have all that information.
Yeah, I kind of think of it. We call it 2IB ID, which is eventually kind of becomes a key product for us, but it, in a lot of ways, is like Gen Z Amex, where like we become kind of the consumer credit score. And there's a lot of different ways for brands to tap into or activate that. But we've started with what I call new loyalty, which is, again, like gamifying loyalty, because traditional loyalty or retention products don't work.
It's a pain point for us often when we're on the agency side of things, talking to brands around loyalty, because it's like very like, hey, you guys do not have loyalty. Do you want to add loyalty? And they go, yes. And then we're like, all right, cool. What does that look like? And they're like, why is it's because it's not a binary. It is a binary question to them that is a existential exercise in like consumer behavior and like what is best for the business. And that's maybe me being more begrudging with like how apps to replace strategy is a bad, like a bad way to grow a business.
Yeah, sure. No, loyalty we stay far away from in the sales process, because loyalty, the term, comes with such bad baggage, and it becomes like a very slow and bureaucratic process. And so we really root in community engagement and rewards.
Yeah.
And this becomes your most engaged channel. So 40% of monthly active users, like people are visiting this often, way more than, SMS or email. And then we expand into loyalty over time. And so we have a bunch of brands who have converted off Yotpo, but they start with the community engagement use case and then expand into full loyalty.
Absolutely. That's amazing, Ty. Now, is there anything I didn't ask you about today that you think would be interesting to our audience?
We just raised our Series A, which is exciting. So we raised $11 million for 2IB. And we're onboarding the best brands. So I mentioned Crocs is upcoming. We have a very exciting mystery brand in the activewear space coming at the end of July. And then every brand is going to be here. So really, I kind of summarize 2IB as the Gen Z rewards app. So if you or any of the listeners have brands that you want to engage with in this way, please email me or DM me on 2IB. Tai is my username. But I really believe that every brand will have an own fan channel over the next 18 months. So if you haven't downloaded 2IB, you're going to want to and be required to soon to get rewards.
Absolutely. Now, thank you so much for coming on the show today, sharing all those awesome insights about community and all of the growth stories around Outdoor Voices. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Chase.